Lester Biofuels, Lester Halterman, and they are a little bit earlier in the process than Sapphire Energy, still getting going, and they provide a little different kind of biofuel, and I'll let Lester jump right into it.
Thank you, Tim. Definitely wanted to thank Connect for inviting us and giving us this opportunity. Sapphire Energy does great work, and we're quite different from Sapphire. Like Tim mentioned, we're definitely in our infancy. We're a emerging company that is kind of focused on what we can do now with biofuels and implementing the technology that we have at hand. We're trying to develop a little bit more of our own technology and more focused on localization and sustainability. And as you'll see here, our slogan, I hope didn't offend anyone, but you'll see what that leads to. Basically, you can sum up our business model through 3 words: reclaim, recycle, refuel. We have a niche client strategy focusing on one city at a time, and specifically corporations like Legoland, San Diego Padres, where through recycling their used cooking oil on a local level, making it into a biodiesel product that can be used into any diesel-powered engines or equipment, and getting it back into the local system. And that's kind of where our Go Fuel Yourself philosophy comes from. And beyond that, as we'll get into, our technology and production capabilities can expand, but we find a lot of meaning and value in this core focus. And I might want to mention, if you don't know much about biodiesel, it's a renewable fuel that you can make through mixing vegetable oil with methanol and a catalyst such as potassium hydroxide, and that basically the mixture splits into glycerin and a methyl ester, which is biodiesel, both which are commodities that can be used as fuel and recycled into other things such as soap. One thing we're heavily into is marketing and establishing alliances with the companies that we're working with to build awareness of biodiesel. The frustrating thing for us is the biodiesel and algae research. We're in San Diego. It's the algae research hub of the world, essentially. And in San Diego, you can only get biodiesel at one place in town. And I think that has a lot to do with the marketing and awareness and building more, stirring up the system to get people more excited to get biodiesel in the marketplace. We're focused on local feedstock primarily. We are creating some exciting second generation technology. First generation was kind of set up just to use virgin oils as we see it. Second generation, we classify that as the plants that were set up to ester fry using sulfuric acid, and through our second generation technology, we're doing a more progressive fixed bed catalyst that doesn't require any sulfuric acid. As far as distribution goes, we're focusing on direct fleet fueling, reducing companies' carbon footprints, and also as production builds up, we'll get more into the wholesale level. Algae research is right in town, and we definitely want to start building those relationships with companies like Sapphire, that once our plant's up and running, we can start doing real-world analysis on the fuels, putting them into some of our alliance companies that we're working with. Algae right now, I don't know as much as I would like to know about it, but it's not available for a plant like ours to process and get into the marketplace. And it's really expensive because it's in that R&D stage. But again, the focus is working with a lot of alliances like this. Many of these companies have oil themselves, have the ability to use the fuel that we can produce. A lot of them are just other companies that have a conscience and they want to do the right thing, and they've got diesel-powered vehicles and they're just dying to get on board and fuel up with Lester Biofuels. We just launched our website this month, and this is the new look. I encourage you all to go check that out and see how we're doing some of our marketing and working with various companies and giving them some bragging rights on amount of oil that we collect from them and how that translates into reduced carbon emissions. As you get deeper into the website, you'll see that. And the future is now is that's not one of our slogans, but the message there is, biodiesel's here right now and we can make more of it, and there's not enough in town, and that's why we're here. So in our startup phase, that's our opening statement. This is an example of a client, Legoland, we're working with, and based on the oil that we collect from them on an annual basis, it shows a low carbon footprint reduction, and we'll be building out more content, doing stories on entities like that we're working with. But through the capacity of our plant, which is about a 2 million gallon per year plant, on this local level, we can reduce carbon emissions by close to 35 million pounds, which is, it's not an answer, but we see biodiesel, like Tim showed in his presentation, as part of the solution. And that's what we believe in. Again, just some more of our marketing strategies to build awareness. Some of the companies we're working with, we're doing collaborative efforts. Samazon, one company that makes acai beverages, they utilized us in one of their marketing campaigns called Warrior Up. And that video is on our website right now about how we got included in that. Doing some cross-branding. Some of our clients' vehicles and on our vehicles, showing the collaboration effort on the local level. As far as our technology goes, we were kind of forced down a path to create something a little innovative, which is exciting for us, and that had to do with fire code issues. And what we ended up developing is a continuous flow esterification, trans-esterification system to make the biodiesel and keep the flammable liquid volumes below 240 gallons per room in our building, which is a huge barrier to stay under. And the reason being was mostly because of financial means. We could have bought a big piece of equipment that was off the shelf and would put us way over the flammable liquid limits, and that would have caused us to buy rather extensive foam protection systems and explosion-proof equipment that would have just skyrocketed much more than developing this technology that's innovative, and at the same time we're going to get more output in our plant. The other big thing about it is through our esterification system, we'll be able to make biodiesel out of grease trap grease, which is not very typical. People have been trying to do it in the 1 and 1.5 generation plants, and can be really expensive to deal with the grease traps. But every restaurant has them. Every restaurant gets them pumped, and a lot of it gets recycled as best as it can. But we feel that is just another valuable feedstock to make into biodiesel. And again, it's acid-free processing, which is occupationally a huge thing, but also from an environmental standpoint. The great thing about this is when we get the funding, we'll have a working model with this system that will enable other plants to come see our working system, mainly the esterification system, which will hopefully stimulate other plants to take our system, and we could scale it to whatever size plant they have and plug that in there. And what that will do for their businesses is it'll give them a more viable opportunity to choose different feedstocks based on the marketplace. Most of the plants rely on virgin feedstocks. Well, with a system like this, they'll be able to work more on a local level and recycle their used cooking oils that typically the plants can't handle. As far as where we are right now, we're basically at permit stage. It took us about a year to get through that stage with the City of Escondido. We've established a plethora of companies that are on board with our project, just dying, ready to go, want our fuel. We've pretty much got everybody ready for, from a construction standpoint. We've got our exemption with CEQA, which is huge. Apparently that's a big one to get through. But our website launch is not a big deal, but to us it really is, because we're starting to get momentum here and come through with much of what we've been talking about for a year about these companies. So all we're waiting on right now is our air pollution permit, which should come in next month, which will mean that basically we're a shovel-ready project. Unfortunately, the only missing link with us is we're underfunded. So that's what we've been heavily working on at this stage, finally at that stage where we can approach a lot of private money that we haven't gone after because we want to wait for our business to get a little further along. But it leads into some policy changes that we'll get into. Starting off with the patents, patents for a company like us are really, we're self-funded, very limited. Every dollar needed to be spent on much more important things. With the patent issue, it seems to us that we couldn't spend the $20,000 to $25,000 at all. And I guess with this grace period that's in place with the new Senate bill, it's going to force companies like us to, go down that path, spend more money on lawyers, and put our project in further jeopardy. Because if someone else beats us in there before we get there, then we need to go in and file ours as well, but also fight and prove how we had our technology on paper fully ready before theirs, and that's kind of another legal action that's just going to cost a company like us even more money. The dollar tax credit's a humongous thing. Speaking of Sapphire a little bit, I think that the algae biofuels should definitely be part of that dollar tax credit. Right now it's not apparently, but backing up in 2009, the dollar tax credit went away, and for startups like us, that dollar tax credit is a humongous boost and limits the risks, and without the certainty of a dollar tax credit, it makes funding even more difficult for us to get. So it's kind of this little buffer that for a company like us means a heck of a lot. But they reinstated that dollar tax credit retroactive to 2010. It was great, but when it went away, biodiesel production went down quite a bit. Plants closed doors because most of the plants were built off of relying on that dollar tax credit. So basically, I believe that that's a really important issue. It needs to be put back into place with some certainty so that not only startups, but these bigger companies that are in place that rely on it can at least maintain business and production levels until other technologies and whatnot come out where they won't rely on the dollar tax credit.